What's good, YouTube? And welcome to the house. We've got a brand new segment for you guys today called Budget Beatdown, where we're going to take a look at an expensive card from Flood and then a very budget card from Flood that a lot of people have asked me, which is better? Which should I play? And it's ultimately up to you, your budget, and what you think your deck does. I think a lot of 60 card decks and graveyard resource decks are going to want to go with Ghost Belle, whereas a lot of decks that are playing Called by the Grave want to counter that deck via side deck, and this does take care of a lot of different things that Ghost Belle is unable to, but ultimately we're going to break down both of these for you. 70 cents versus $38, $39 right now. You had the chance to get Ghost Belle yesterday at $31 because Yu-Gi-Oh! Singles are madmen and price things originally at what they think they should be worth and then look at the market. I think it's the lowest on TCG Player, like $55, which is pretty nuts for this card, but it is a very good card and we'll talk about the merits. But first, a real shout out to Yu-Gi-Oh! Singles. They are absolute madmen. They are putting complete sets on sale at $247. And I don't think they thought this all the way through, like I said they didn't about Ghost Belle yesterday. With that promo code down below, this is cheaper to get 3 complete sets of everything versus spending $60 a box on a case. That guarantees you 3 Infinite Impertinents, 3 Ghost Belles, all the secrets, all the ultras, all the supers, all the rares and commons. All for under $720 US, free shipped. That's crazy. And it's Euro print, which is kind of cool for some of you guys, but realistically, that deal is insane. Now, I'm a pack opening junkie, so I would still understand ordering a case, but the guaranteed value here is actually just nuts. But let's get to what you guys came here for. The actual discussion, the chinks in the armor, everything that you need to know about these two cards. Called by the Grave versus Ghost Belle and Haunted Mansion. Now, I really like Ghost Belle overall, and I think it does have quite a few advantages. It's a monster body, it's a tuner, it's a zombie, but it has that last line, you can only activate this card once per turn. Called by the Grave doesn't have that restriction. Now, Called by the Grave has a chink in its armor just for being a spell card, despite being a quick play spell. It has to set itself on the field. So Ghost Belle protects itself and its timing by getting to stay in the hand nice and safe, where Called by the Grave is in the battlefield, in the presence of Trickstar Light Stage, locking it down, in the presence of Tornado Dragon in those rank 460 card decks, getting its pot shots off on it. So there definitely is advantages to Ghost Belle being warm and cozy in the hand versus Called by the Grave being on the field. But Called by the Grave, if you draw multiple, all of them are accessible immediately. So I definitely think that there's an interesting kind of duality there, and how they can activate how many you can, their usefulness, and they definitely do different things. Now, a huge win for Called by the Grave is that it can stop Ash Blossom, Ogre, and Belle. It stops any hand trap that sends itself from the hand to the graveyard as the activation requirement, because it's going to negate it through the chain, resolving like last, because it stacks on top of the chain. So Called by the Grave definitely gets a huge W in that department. There is one hand trap that Ghost Belle actually relevantly stops, which is Gamma, but it has to have the driver already in the graveyard if the ruling is the same as the OCG. Otherwise, its activation has to be from deck. So I would believe that that ruling will translate here, even though it could potentially get it from graveyard. There could be something in the chain that discards it. Like, I still think that Ghost Belle won't be able to stop it unless there's one already in the graveyard at the activation of Gamma, because anything else happening in the chain would make it kind of lose its ability to respond. Now, something funny about these two cards. Called by the Grave can negate Ghost Belle. Ghost Belle can negate Called by the Grave. That's actually just hilarious that Ghost Belle and Called by the Grave are hard counters to each other. Called by the Grave cannot stop a Called by the Grave. Ghost Belle cannot stop a Ghost Belle. They can stop each other. It's just hilarious, actually, in my opinion, and that gives you a lot of thought towards your 60 card decks. You can use Ghost Belle to protect yourself, unless they have 2 Called by the Graves, like in the YugiTuber Grand Championship. But seriously, I think it's actually really cool that you have a hard counter given to Called by the Grave immediately in the same set it's in. And Called by the Grave is kind of the natural hand trap stopper. So you finally have a hand trap that can hunt down Called by the Grave, since we've had Called by the Grave for a little, and it's shown its meta dominance. Now, the first card that they both can stop is Monster Reborn, but Ghost Belle has a huge win in this category because Called by the Grave can only target monsters in your opponent's graveyard. So if you're reading a Called by the Grave and you want to resource your opponent's graveyard for something nice and juicy, guess what? Called by the Grave can't touch it. But typically, I feel like you're going with your own strategy most of the time, unless they set up a huge board, you board wiped somehow, and now you're taking something nice. So I still feel like Ghost Belle overall gets the W here, but if Called by the Grave is stopping Monster Reborn, then it's also going to banish whatever it's taking care of, making sure it's not a resource, unless somehow it gets an effect off being banished. So Called by the Grave does win in the instance of resourcing your own graveyard, or you like your opponent resourcing their own graveyard with Monster Reborn, but it's not a guarantee stop on Monster Reborn like Ghost Belle is. Now, something that I feel like is also not a guarantee is the Paleozoic cards, because you can chain Called by the Grave to a trap activation, stopping a Paleozoic from reviving. But in those really bad grind games, sometimes Paleozoics don't have a monster in the graveyard for this to stop. So I think most of the time it's going to win. Getting it to take care of a resource in the graveyard, getting rid of a frog or a rodent totem can be huge for Called by the Grave. But at the same time, there's no guarantee. Ghost Belle can actually stop that revival effect, so that's another plus towards it in that matchup, because oftentimes they're really struggling to make that toad, and getting that pop off can be pretty huge. Now, one that Called by the Grave I feel wins is Fairy Tale Snow, because there's not always the resources to banish twice, and if there's not, then Ghost Belle is going to stop it for the turn, but Called by the Grave is permanently going to take care of it as a resource out of the graveyard here. But in the similar situation, if they don't have enough to recur Snow, Ghost Belle stops it just as well. Now, if they can just chain Fairy Tale Snow to Called by the Grave if there is the resources, there it starts to go off the same as it would to Ghost Belle. You can just chain it again to the Ghost Belle as well. But here's where Called by the Grave wins, such as my YugiTuber Grand Championship match. If they have 2, they can activate 2 Called by the Grave, thus taking care of the Snow. Trickstar Reincarnation is another one both of these stop, because it does target. So Called by the Grave can take care of the graveyard. Trickstar Reincarnation, you target a Trickstar card in your graveyard, special summon it. So it does permanently remove the resource. It does take care of it, but so does Ghost Belle as well. And then the resource is lost because Trickstar Reincarnation is going to banish itself. So these are all kind of the interesting cards, and Called by the Grave is winning on hand traps right now. But now, there's a big card that Ghost Belle is going to win on. Soul Charge, if Called by the Grave takes away one of the targets, is still going to resolve for the rest of the targets, whereas Ghost Belle is going to completely stop this card from happening. I think this is one of the biggest cards in the format that it stops. World Chalice was able to take a YCS thanks to Saryuja Soul Charge, and I think it cannot be underestimated. So Ghost Belle being able to definitively stop Soul Charge, where Called by the Grave's only stealing one target, I would definitely say that I definitely approve of Ghost Belle in that situation overall. Next up, Invocation. Thank you, Simo, for talking to me about the Soul Charge ruling, and also your video showing me Invocation. Invocation banishes monsters from the field or either player's graveyard for the fusion summon, and since you can't really decide which is happening first, if there's any monsters in either player's graveyard at all, Ghost Belle can come down and smack Invocation. That is pretty darn nice. So being able to stop a huge card in the meta like Invocation. The Invoked are still running around. They got multiple tops in this YCS. I believe it's Chile that's happening. And it also was able to top at least one slot in the previous YCS. It's nice to see it be able to take care of such a power card that is so needed for them to go off. If they don't have a way to another Alistair, which often they don't since they're playing Mech Knights and the engine isn't as focused on Alistair anymore, oh yeah. This can be a huge pain and just stifle their entire turn. And the final card that Ghost Belle can stop that Call By can't, Firewall's Bounce Effect, because the Bounce Effect can potentially return cards from the field and or graveyard. Now you do have to target. You can target monsters on the field and or graveyard up to the number. So there is a targeting aspect there, but Ghost Belle can definitively take care of the return and the entire effect should it attempt to go for a graveyard card, whereas Call By the Grave could only take care of one, depending on the amount of cards that Firewall is linked to. So there you have it. There's so many applications for both of these cards, but I do feel like for the budget, for the price, Call By the Grave is not ignorable. It is an amazing card, but personally, as a 60 card player currently, I feel like I've got to play Ghost Belle. So it really does come down to the deck you're playing, but for the price point, by far, by miles, around $2 for a playset right now with that Yu-Gi-Oh! Singles code, Call By the Grave is miles ahead for the price of versus like 120-ish for a playset of Ghost Belle. Miles and miles ahead, in my opinion, for the budget aspect. But again, it really does come down to the deck you're playing and what you feel like you're going to need to stop. Stopping Soul Charge, to me, I want to stop that every time I can. But how many times are you going to have Ghost Belle and save it for the Soul Charge just in case they have it too? And not use it earlier in the turn? I don't know. I really don't. But both of these certainly have different applications, especially with Ghost Belle protecting your deck in the 60 card decks. But let me know down in the comment section down below what you thought of Budget Beatdown. Do you enjoy this kind of discussion and want to see it more? Give it a thumbs up and tell me what you think. And also, just a huge shout outs to Yu-Gi-Oh! Singles supporting me and MCole40 and just having the most insane deals on the market. Not even, like, they're not even mad when we, like, start to sell them out of a card that they underpriced. Like, that's a true sponsor. They're not like, stop that. And they let us tell our audience honestly beforehand. Like, I would not buy the what's it called card? The Infinite Impertinence. I would not buy them from them right now, and they give us full creative control to say that. Both myself and Robbie warned you, hey, stay off this card right now. They don't get angry at us for that kind of thing. They're really one of the nicest sponsors in terms of allowing us to just go free. But honestly, all my sponsors just kind of let me mouth off like that. So I appreciate all of them as well. But definitely it's cool to see Yu-Gi-Oh! Singles go in on the market like that.